So it's time for a midweek medium, and for this week's medium I'm choosing these. The Faber Castell Pitt pens. I'm going to tell you all about them, and while I'm here I'm going to introduce you to Bear. He's my painting companion. So the Faber Castell Pitt pens are Indian ink, and this particular set, which is their full range, is a 60 set, and they are all brush pens. Now I'm going to show you in a demo in a minute what they're like and how you can use them. They are very expensive. Having said that, they are all said to be extremely light fast, archival, very pigmented, and yes, I can attest to that. And they are very unique. It saves having to use a brush, and they're very portable. And I love them. But again, it's like one of them graphitin type mediums to me. I love them so much, but I hardly ever use them. I have done a few pictures, and I'll show you a couple as we go along. You would have a lot of fun with these, and they are very worth the outlay. Having said that, a box of 60 like this was 160, 170 pounds. I think I've seen it on the Faber Castell website at 200 pounds at the moment. But they do last a long time, and they are very good, and they need to be for that price, don't they? Let's be honest. So I'm going to show you some other Pitt pens. There's all different types. I'll just show you a small snippet of what I have and the reasons I may or may not use them. So let's get on with the demonstration. See you in a bit, Bear. So what we have in the camera shot now are some of the different types of the Pitt pen. Probably not all of the types. I have very many, and I use them all for different reasons. Firstly for the colour reasons, as you'll see, and secondly for the nibs. But the standard type of Pitt pen, Faber Castell Pitt pen, is the brush type. I'm going to show you that. And in this box there are 60. That is the brush pen tip, and I wouldn't press too hard with them. Hope you can see that. But they are very nice. Now it is said that Pitt pens are not very blendable. Well, as I said, I'm showing you my pictures and I have found a way. I haven't seen many people blending with them, to be fair, and they are very difficult. And there is a certain way of doing it for me anyway. And at some point in time I'm going to do a video on that, showing you how I use them. But as I said, these are the brush pens, the complete set of 60 brush pens. And they come in all the colours and shades that you could see, and they all have a B on the end which shows they are a brush pen. You can also get smaller packets of these Pitt pens. So what we have here is more of a earth tone arrangement, and they come in this very nice plastic box which opens up like this, and you can pick out your pens. So that's a very nice assortment. I like that quite a lot. So that's if you wanted to do an earth tone type picture, say a landscape. They also do a smaller set of grey tones. And it's the same, it's all brush pens again. However, in this set, there seems to be one smaller nib. I don't know if that's deliberate or whether I've mixed them up somewhere, but there does seem to be a smaller nib in there. No, it does say on the back that it says there's a small nib. What it says on the back, it says pigmented Indian ink with a high light fastness, waterproof, permanent, odourless and acid free. pH neutral and available in 60 colours. Now I'm going to show you something that I've done, and I actually have it on the outside of my studio. So this is the outside of my studio. We're just sort of kind of preparing it ready for summer so we can sit out here in the garden. I only have a small garden, but you know, it's cosy. But this is the picture I was telling you about. This is Faber Castell Indian ink Pitt pens, and I did this on a bar stool top. So it is literally a pine bar stool. I've took the top off, I have gessoed it, and then I have chalk painted it, and then I've done my painting on it in the Faber Castell Pitt pens, and I'm sure you'll agree it's quite a detailed painting, and there are different techniques in that, and I will show you that in due course. I hope you like that. I also have this set of classic multicolours, and again it shows you on the back what they all are. In this one there is not a small nib, so they're all brush pens again. But that's another really nice set, and you could build up like that if you wanted. But they do also do these small wallets, and as you can see they're in sets of 6. Now these are not cheap things, but they are very worth having and very fun to play with. And I have here a set of soft brush blue tones, and a terra one which is basically earth tones, and a landscape one which is further earth tones, and a purple in there, believe it or not. They're all quite interesting, and that's basically brush pens for you. But they have 3 different types of nib. Now I can demonstrate that with the white packet, just what there is. You have the brush pen, and then you have a 1.5mm bullet type pen. You also have a calligraphy pen, and then you also have a fine pen, which again comes in different sizes. So we have all these 4 different sizes, and each of the smaller type finer pens come in about 8 different sizes, I believe. But this is the white set, and extremely worth having. White is the most important colour in the Pitt pen range. I personally use it in a similar sort of way as you would probably use acrylic, because this is opaque and permanent. I can lay down colour, then I can go on top with white for details, and then I can also glaze over the top of that. So it's kind of similar to the way you would do acrylic. Haven't actually seen anybody do that, so I've let the cat out of the bag on that one, but I don't mind. You also have in the whites a very large bullet type pen, and you can see the nib on that. So that's very nice, and you can see I've actually been using it probably to blend, and this is the 1.5mm bullet type, and then there's a chisel type, which is this one, and you can see it's pointed, and I use that for different reasons, all for different reasons, and I found them all to be brilliant for different reasons. It's not normal that people use all of them different types in their paintings, but I've found different reasons to have them. So for example, if I wanted some very fine straight lines or even whiskers, I'd probably end up using the calligraphy chisel type pen instead of the bullet type pen, because that would give you a finer and clearer line. Going on from the calligraphy pens, they again also come in different sets. These are a few of the sets I have, and in this one we have some multicolours, red, green, an olive type colour. That's the colours there. Oh, it's an ochre colour. So they're chisel pens, and again all highly light fast. And I can use, say, the green and the yellow for grasses, things like that. In this set we have a blue, black, terracotta and a white, so that's kind of like a standard set of colours. And in this set we have an earth tone set, and they're all chisel edge like that one I just showed you. They also do these fine Pitt artist pens, and as you can see they come in 4, 6 and 8 different types. In this one you have a very fine, or extra small it would say, and small, fine, medium, a brush tip and a chisel tip, so that's quite good for blacks. And in this one we have small, fine, medium and brush. So this is the full range of the Pitt pens, and as you can see it's quite a newish range. However, I've had this a while now, and you have extra small, small, fine, medium, brush pen, soft chisel, soft brush and a 1.5mm bullet. So that's actually really nice range to have in there for blacks, and you can do so many different things and make so many different marks with them, as you can see on the packet. And I mentioned the big bullet pens. They also come in different sets, and this is a classic set of greys and terracottas and browns and blacks. And this one is a warm grey set, so that's just a big bullet pen, the same as your white, and you can cover vast areas with that. Now the last one I'm going to show you is this newish type set. I'm not sure if they do any others colours in these. I think I've seen one other different colour range, but this is a standard colour set, and you have 5 dual markers. And on one end you have a bullet soft kind of brush nib, so that's a little bit different to all the other bullet ones and the other brush ones, because it's a little bit firmer. And on this end you have a very fine line, so you can turn them upside down and use them. So I'll just show you these. I was quite fascinated with these when I got them. I'll show you the red. So on one end you have this bullet come brush. It's quite soft, but it's firm enough to do stuff you want to, so you can get vast areas. And on the other end you have a very fine nib, so you can get thin lines. Just noticed that seems lighter than the bullet. I assume that's because there's less ink coming out. So that's quite a handy little set to have if you just wanted to take out a few pens with you and mess about. That's a few of the pens that I would use. And I'm just going to show you this brush pen and what marks it will make. So you'll see it's quite a thin brush, and it will make some lovely marks for you. Quite thick, but you could come up on the top and go quite thin, but you'd have to be very careful when doing that. So you could get different marks with that. But the one thing you do need to be aware of is that these nibs will wear out in the course of time, and they'll become a bit fluffy at the end, especially if you press too hard. However, what you can do is pull out the nib, and on the other end is the nib again. You turn it upside down, push it back in, and there you have a new refreshed nib. Not a lot of people actually know that, as Michael Caine said. So that's handy to know, and I hope that's taught somebody something. So there's your brush pens. Let's show you a mark with a bullet pen. Show you how it's different. This is the bullet come brush. You get a lot more pigment out, a lot thicker, cover bigger areas. Now let's do a calligraphy pen and show you what kind of mark you can get with that. So this is a calligraphy. If you put it on one edge, on the widest edge, you can get quite a thick line. You put it on the thinner edge, you can get a thin line. You put it on its corner, you can get a medium line. So you can get quite a lot out of a calligraphy pen, and I use it for things like doing whiskers and grasses and things like that. So I quite like the calligraphy pen. It's quite good for detail. And these fine liner pens, I'll just quickly show you a couple of the marks that they do. I'll show you the smallest one and I'll show you the thickest one. So we have the medium and we have the extra small. So if you see the extra small, it really is tiny, and you can get some very thin, fine lines from that. And you could probably build up some very nice texture with this, but it would take quite a long time. And then this is the medium pen. You can see it's a lot thicker on the nib, and I'll put it next to it so you can see the difference. And of course then you will progress up through the scales to all your brush pens and your bullet pens, where you would get different types of thickness of pen, and obviously different colours as well. Now the one set I like is this sanguine set. I feel that I could do a very nice oldie worldy type picture with one of these, because you have the brush, the small, the fine and the medium pens, and you could get some really good detail with that. You could actually make that look similar to a Conte crayon, I would say. So they're quite nice. But it does matter which paper you use it on, and in the course of time I'm going to show you the paper I use to do my pictures with, and I'll also show you how I did that Kingfisher that I've already shown you that's on my studio. And I've done a few different ink drawings on different surfaces, and I find that when you get a surface that will allow you to go across the top of it, you can get better blends. However, if you use one that soaks in a bit, this wouldn't be very good for blending, this particular paper. You have to watch what paper you use, because if you had a paper that was worse than the one I'm using here, which is the cellulose paper, this would bleed out. So you have to be very careful on your choice of paper. Have a nice smooth paper, one that doesn't soak in, one that's, I'd say, reasonably thick and allows you to go across the top of it. A paper such as the paper you use for the Winsor & Newton markers, that wouldn't work because it's too waterproof. Quick overview of Pitt pens, and I hope you've liked what you've seen. And in the course of time I'm going to show you how I blend them and how I correct mistakes. I did a video way back, several years ago now, about how to correct a mistake, but I'm going to make that video a bit better this time. And hopefully, if you've got some Pitt pens, I can guide you towards doing some detailed and hopefully better work, unless you already do great work, of course. So that's a quick overview of the Faber Castell Pitt pens. Loads of different styles, loads of different colours, loads of different nibs obviously, and they are a lot of fun to work with, they really are. And there is a way of blending them, and I will come to that in due course. I absolutely love them. I don't use them anywhere near enough, unfortunately, but I have all these other mediums to use, don't I? So, oh, yeah, it's hard work sometimes. One thing I forgot to mention, Bear reminded me, is that when you're storing them, you must keep the Pitt pens horizontal, because otherwise they will dry out, or they could possibly leak. It's not likely that they will leak, but they could definitely dry out. So another thing that Bear reminded me of is that when you're using them, if you try it with water and you try to put the ink pen on the water, they will actually bleach the ink out and you'll end up not being able to get any colour out onto the surface of the paper. There are ways of using water, but again, that's another video. But I hope it's given you a bit of idea and a bit of fun that you could look towards, and I'd love to see your pictures if you do anything with them. The Faber Castell Pitt pens, they're light fast, archival, water resistant. They will stand up to almost anything. I'm hoping that is the case because my Kingfisher, like I said, is on the outside of my studio, and he's going to have to last because it's really sunny here at the moment and he hasn't faded at all, so that's fantastic. He is varnished, so that does help. But yeah, this is a fascinating medium, and I really must do another one sometime. But until next time, whomever, wherever you are, please have a great day, a great week and a great year, and please be kind. Bye for now. Anyway, many thanks to Bear.